This is Aaron Douglas, and I'm talking with John Arnold of Tuitive and any number of other things. John, how the heck are you?
I am doing very, very well. Thank you.
There you go. Where are you right now?
Right now, I'm in Boulder, Colorado. We got here yesterday.
And how long will you be there?
Probably 5-6 days, something like that. The reason we're here is because Amy, my wife, has a little half marathon thing that she's running in Boulder, and after that we'll move on.
Fantastic. We're very envious of your gypsy lifestyle.
Yeah, it's great.
What we wanted to talk about today, or rather what I wanted to talk about today with you, was this idea of passion. You are we've known each other for a few years now, and I've always been impressed with just how you love what you do, and not necessarily all equally at the same time. But I've seen a lot of passion around user design, around user interface, around design in general, and how people can interact with it. And I was hoping you could tell me a little bit about your passions in that area, and what that's like for you.
Sure. Well, I'll give it a shot. Well, as you know, I spent the majority of my time over the last few years at Tuitive doing UI design and just trying to make people's stuff easy and enjoyable to use. And a side project, a little startup that I have going right now is Camera Sim, and that's basically an online DSLR simulator that attempts to help people understand their SLR camera. And I guess whether it's Tuitive or working on my own stuff, I'm just fascinated with that intersection of human beings and technology. And I think it goes back to my first job out of college. I was working at an insurance company. I was a commercial lines underwriter. I basically looked at insurance policies all day long. It was a pretty boring job, and I wasn't very good at it. But what I was good at, being this punk out of college, was pretty good with computers. And so I migrated to the IT department there, and I was put in charge of this policy rating and issuance system. And it was
awesome.
Oh yeah, and back then this was like it wasn't green screen stuff, but it was like one step up. It was like the DOS-based character entry stuff, and I mean it was truly awful. And it was rolled out, and all of the people in the company had to use this. And most of these people that had to use it, these were all, they had all been working at this company for decades, okay? They'd been doing things with paper and pencil, and now these strange machines were sitting on their desks, and they were told to use it. And they had this new software that they were told to use, and it was my job to sort of evangelize the product and be the support for it and answer questions, train people on it and stuff like that. And it was fun working with technology, but the thing that just was seared into my brain was just watching these people try to do their job with some amount of ease and dignity, and just how it just wasn't happening. And so on one hand, you see technology with all this promise and all this power, but then on the other hand, you see these people that come to the technology, approach the technology with very different backgrounds, and there's just such a huge disconnect between the machine world and the human world, and just watching people struggle through that. I mean, literally, my heart would ache for these people that were just trying to do their job and do it well, but they had to use a tool that was just so hostile towards them, and I'd like to say I wish things were like so much better now. And maybe it's just because of the job that I'm in. People come to me when they have poorly designed software and it needs to be usable. Maybe it's like my mom was she was a nurse for years. She worked in the emergency room, and so when she saw motorcycle accident victim after motorcycle accident victim come in, she gets the impression that motorcycles are just awful machines. So likewise, because I deal with so many people that come to me with awful software, I have this impression that much of the software out there is in need of a lot of help. I wish things had gotten a lot better over the last 15 years since I dealt with that software back at the insurance company, but it's my impression that it hasn't.
Say a little more about that. What is it that you're seeing that isn't moving in the right direction?
Well, I think it's moving in the right direction. In fact, I can remember when I first sort of rebranded as Tuitive, this would have been like 3-4 years ago, and declared that this is what we do. We're not a web design shop anymore doing brochureware websites. We're a UI design company. When we made that transition, I remember having to go out and still trying to convince people of the problem, that users would be happier, adoption rates would be higher, support would be easier, all that stuff, all these benefits that you get when you have a positive user experience. I remember going out and trying to educate people on that, and I didn't have a whole lot of luck with that. It was a very hard conversation to have. I don't really have to have that conversation anymore. So that's changed for the better. People are at least aware of the issue now, that it's not just about getting brilliant technologists together to craft some wonderful functionality. That's part of the equation, but the other part is, how do you get that wonderful technology to manifest itself in front of a human being that has never seen it before in a way that will be meaningful to them? So people being aware of the problem, that has improved. That has improved profoundly. I don't really do much education anymore. If someone doesn't understand they have a problem, then that's okay. I'm just not gonna try to change their mind about that. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. You asked.
So the expectations. What I heard you say was that people are having. It's more common that they have an expectations about the ease of use and interaction, because I was curious as to, in that time, we've seen software become much more complex as well.
Yeah.
Do you think the UI and the expectation of good user interface, do you think that is keeping up with the curve? Do you think it's gaining, falling behind?
It's a good question, and I guess ultimately I don't know. Maybe it's sort of this cat and mouse game that one leapfrogs the other, but I will say that the greatest thing that ever happened to me and my industry was Apple and the iPhone, because that was able to. It was sort of an awakening in a way. I mean, it's a phone. Okay, so before the iPhone came around, people had these fancy smartphones, and there really wasn't.
Did they?
Really,
were there smartphones before the iPhone?
Yeah, there was. You had your Blackberries, and you had all these phones with these slide-out keyboards and all these just a million buttons that looked like a cockpit of an airplane.
The HTC Brick. Yes,
okay. I had the Motorola Q, which was awful device. So you had these phones that were increasing in complexity. These manufacturers were just adding more features and more features, thinking that was progress. Because we didn't know any different, it still felt like progress, but still something was missing in ways that it was hard to talk about how that could be better. And then so Apple comes along with their iPhone, and now it's like a totally different way of approaching a phone, a device that maybe some people thought was fine, or just the way phones needed to be. And so that sort of changed the conversation, where we'd be talking about maybe normal web apps, about making them more usable or just more fun or just easier to use, stuff like that. And I would have all of my points that I would go through to try to get people to understand what I'm talking about. and then inevitably it would come up, oh, well, kind of like the iPhone. It's like, well, yeah, exactly like that. And so I wish I could articulate it better, but it was something about that iPhone that made people get what user experience and user interface design was supposed to be. Does that make any sense at all?
Absolutely. 'Cause it's hard to conceptualize until you can literally touch it. And I think the iPhone was the thing that really made that bridge for me. As you were sharing about what you know is with the iPhone, it's like I can't understand how it's just a button. How can they have this phone that has one button? Which is not entirely true, but considering coming from the HTCs and the Windows mobile devices back then, and it's an experience. It almost transcends, because I don't have to work with software now. I just use my iPhone.
Yeah.
And so it's seamless. How would you describe that?
I don't know. There's something emotional that's going on with the iPhone and even the tablets that have come out since then, and it just feels like a more intimate experience with the technology, and that was new. There really wasn't anything, at least I don't know of anything, I can't cite anything that I'm aware of that was as profound of a change like that than what the iPhone brought in. And it's interesting to see how just the loyalty that is engendered among users of iPhones and iPads, and certainly we've seen that for years just with Mac users in general, how it's just not about the technology. It's not about this crazy new features that they're packing in there. It's a way you experience that stuff that's just on a deeper level, and that's powerful when you can build a product that can tap into that.
I absolutely agree. I've been keeping an eye on Android, and I like the way that it's going because open source gives opportunity for more development and more creative ideas. But I'm waiting for somebody to build a better tool than an iPhone, because I'll happily jump ship. I've got no loyalty.
Sure. You're right.
I've just never experienced anything like it. And it is so personal. It is my assistant, my advisor, my research intern. It is my entertainment. I watch more TV and movies on my phone than I do on my TV.
Yeah.
So it's what's interesting about that is because of the engagement with it, I think it's an opportunity to be exploited, because if it comes from my phone, it's personal. So if you can get to me through my phone, as you told me, I think you said text messages are the only non-corrupted line of communication that you have at this point.
Yeah.
So what do you see in the future? This notion of human software interface and the seamless experience. And please correct me if I'm paraphrasing incorrectly. Where do you see that going? What is it? Is it just maintaining its pace, or again, is it accelerating? Is it falling behind? What should we be looking for?
Well, I think, and this sounds kind of science fiction, but I think it's coming ultimately. I think we're looking at like mind control devices, or at least sort of eye tracking things becoming more commonplace. But the idea of being able to interact with a device more seamlessly, that is absolutely coming. And we've already seen sort of that first step. Before the iPhone and before touch devices in general, you had, actually going way back, you had like keyboards. Okay, so you can type in characters to control a device, and then the mouse was introduced as a pointing device, and that's what we've lived with for years, decades now. But those are really just prosthetics for how you interact with the data, and I think that's why touch devices are so powerful, because it removes all of that. Now you're not typing in key commands or using a mouse as a prosthetic to even click a button or something like that. Now you are directly touching your data.
Which
okay?
is
And you're
which is
interacting.
which is why my laptop has fingerprints all over it.
Right. Yeah, and it's just a deeper experience. And so one of the things that I think will emerge in the very near future, just because touch devices are here to stay, but one thing we lack is, I've heard it described as a gesture vocabulary, where, I mean, some things are intuitive. Like, imagine changing the size of something on a touch device. You kind of do this pinch sort of maneuver thing, and moving things around. Maybe it's just a tap and drag sort of thing. Some of those things are so basic and intuitive. Those will be hard to come up with anything different. But think of all of the other gestures that exist, like even on the iPhone, or especially the iPad, where you've got single finger gestures, 2-finger gestures, 3-finger gestures, and even 4-finger gestures that all do different things. And those gestures do different things on different devices, because that gesture vocabulary really hasn't stabilized yet. But eventually it will, and when it does, that'll be great, because you'll be able to more seamlessly hop from one device to the next, whether it's a private device or some public interface. Imagine stepping up to an ATM or some automated Starbucks, stuff like that. We're not really there yet. There's still some mental hurdles to get over, because we all haven't agreed on what gesture means what.
Sure. And it's interesting, we're not there yet because of our limitations and willing to accept and whatnot. A small parallel is I've been really using the voice assistant quite a bit on my iPhone 4S.
Mm-hmm.
I tried using Siri, but Siri could never do anything for me. I don't know. I can't help. I'm sorry. I can't help you at this time. So Siri I only used by saying what I wanted, but adding the word Google in front of it, so it would just go to my browser.
Yeah.
But the voice, voice to text.
Voice. I'm glad you brought that up, because voice is another huge thing that will only get better.
I love it. It frustrates me when I have to type because I'm in a crowded area or I don't want to be talking at my phone. Because the voice recognition, and what I thought was so fascinating is how I guessed at the punctuation and was right. What if I just say question mark? That works. How about new paragraph? Fantastic. Hyphen? There it is. It's so there is something about you talk about this gesture. It's not so much people learning new gestures as finding ways to accommodate what we're already comfortable with. You know, the waving for the open and closing. I love my Kinect, although I don't get to play it much. I recently came across a product called Leap, or Leap Motion. I'm not entirely clear.
Okay.
Leapmotion.com. It is a Kinect for your PC. I encourage you to, if you haven't seen that, to check it out, because it is a 3-dimensional gesturing tool to essentially run your computer as you would an Xbox Kinect.
Oh, wow. That's cool. I hadn't heard of that.
I don't know if it's really a thing yet, because they do a lot to make it look like it exists, but I've never seen one.
Okay. Yeah.
So what else? What else in your life right now, kind of as a closing? We talked a lot about work and the user software interface experience. What else are you passionate about right now?
Well, right now I am just indescribably excited about my little camera sim project, and we've talked a little bit about that.
Camerasim.com.
Yeah, thank you. What that was and is, I built that a couple years ago just as a way to explain to a friend how to use his fancy new DSLR camera, and I guess I just wanted to see if I could do it. And at the time, I was just bogged down in management and sales guy responsibilities of a growing intuitive that was ultimately just not very satisfying. So I just needed some sort of creative outlet. Well, I built this. It served its purpose. I threw it online and forgot about it. But just over the months and year and a half, couple years, it just sort of has taken on a life of its own, and And so I get several thousand visitors to this a day, and from all over the world. And I've just about done having it translated in a dozen languages, and have the iPhone version, iPad version, and today actually we plan on launching the Mac and Windows version. And so it's just been so exciting to sort of apply everything that I like to do anyway from a user experience and user interface design standpoint, but to apply it to a subject that I just am personally passionate about, and that's photography. On this RV trip that I've been on for the last 40 weeks now, I've taken over 12,000 photos.
Wow.
And I just love photography, and I love talking about photography. I love showing people how to use their DSLR cameras, and so Camera Sim is just this convergence of all of these interests: technology, helping people, photography, UI design, all that stuff. And so it's just been a blast, and I'm trying to get to a point where I can do more of that, because I think I can make it so much better. And ultimately more helpful.
Well, and as a testament to that tool, I don't have an SLR camera, or a DSLR camera as it was, but I played with the tool because it's so fascinating, and became comfortable with just kind of the general ranges of settings when I want to take a picture that isn't awful. Funny story, last week a friend of ours was showing off their new DSLR camera. And because of having played with Camera Sim so much, I was able to take a fairly decent picture right off the bat, because
good.
I was already comfortable with, I want to make sure to keep my settings in a certain range. It wasn't a fantastic picture, but it was amazing to me how the experience with the tool immediately made me more comfortable with the object.
Yeah, well, good. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, I love getting feedback like that, and people email me or comment on the in the comments on camerasim.com all the time, and that makes me feel great. I love knowing that something that I built maybe opened up sort of a door for someone else, for them to just take it and run and have a great life shooting photos. That's ultimately what I hope it does.
Is there any kind of announcement or shout out you want? We're still recording. I will probably cut this. Well, I probably won't cut it, but I wanted to see if there's anything we missed, because I'm going to talk about your launching the Mac and the PC version.
I can't really think of anything. Yeah, I mean, other than just if anyone's interested in the nomadic lifestyle with a technology-based business, there's always my travel blog, Recalc Route, which, by the way, I finally bought recalculatingroute.com.
Good for you.
It was an expired domain. I got it for $5.
Of course you did.
Yeah.
That's good.